the Neon Confidential podcast.
Is this thing on?
A Vegas native? Are you from here? Where are you from?
Texas.
What part?
Houston.
Oh, no shit.
Where are you from?
I'm from Massachusetts. I spent a lot of time in Texas. I went to college in Texas.
Where'd you go?
In San Antonio, I went to a place called Trinity.
Oh, I know where that's at.
Why do you say it like that?
It's like San Marcos and San Antonio. Those are like the party schools. You know
Well, San Antonio, I used to love to go up to San Marcos and float down the river. New Braunfels.
Yep.
And float down the river. I would drink Shinerbach beer.
Of course. Or
And-
Lone Star.
Yes.
Bottles only.
Or Pearl.
Oh, yeah. Pearl.
I'm going to throw something at you.
Okay.
And this is an unpopular opinion.
Okay.
But I think the best fast food Mexican food,
Okay.
Taco Cabana.
For sure.
Their queso.
Of course. And the drive-through quesadillas at like 2 o'clock in the morning. When people are like, I want to go to Freebirds, I'm like, you can go fuck yourself.
I used to live off of because when I went to college there, it was a 29-cent bean and cheese taco.
Nothing like it.
And you would get the bean and cheese taco and you'd order some extra tortillas and a queso.
You're set.
Oh,
Set.
my God. The best. And I've always said if Taco Cabana opened in Los Angeles or here, it would crush.
They'd kill it.
But they don't. Their queso is...
But I also think that crossover, I don't know though, because I said the same thing about Whataburger and they opened here, but they opened on the Strip.
Yeah.
And part of the Whataburger experience is like the 2 a.m. drunk taquitos.
Yeah.
Like that's why everyone loves it.
Yeah.
You know, so people eat there and they're like, what are you talking about? Like In-N-Out's way better, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you're not doing it right.
Yeah, but if you're judging fast food while you're sober...
You're not doing it right.
Yeah, I don't know that I've ever really eaten Whataburger sober.
Hold on. Maybe that is the question to pose to people. I'm like,
Yeah.
hold on a second. You're having fast food sober?
Yeah,
That's confusing. You're still eating fast food sober?
Yeah, for lunch.
Weird.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what we're talking about. Listen, we're talking about two different things. You're asking about what's better, actual food, and I would say neither one of them.
Correct.
But what's better at 2 a.m. when you're like, I want to go home and watch a movie shit-faced, but what am I bringing home with me?
Right.
And then it doesn't really make it from the drive-through to my house. I can't remember a burger ever making it.
No. Well, and you need to like have breakfast for the next morning. So the trick is that you get like something to eat, satiate, soak up all the liquor. And then the next morning, you've got the breakfast taquitos ready to go.
Are you
in the fridge?
Okay, here we go. Are you a cold taquito or are you going to heat them up? Because for me, and somebody blew my mind with this the other day. Okay. So
Wait, are we recording?
I may.
Yes.
I may.
I was like, there's no way this is liquid. This is gold right here. Okay.
I may. This is tough to say. I may like cold pizza in the morning more than hot pizza at night.
I was literally going to say that.
Okay.
I'm cold pizza, hot taquitos.
Okay, let me ask you this.
We need the cheese to be remelted.
Somebody blew my mind with this.
Okay.
They said, cut up the cheese pizza
Okay.
and throw it in some eggs. And I was like,
Holy shit.
that actually does that sound amazing?
That sounds amazing. I've done that with like steak. So like you go to a
sure.
steakhouse
Yeah.
and you can't finish steak. You take it, I chop that up and put it in the eggs the next morning. So like why wouldn't you do it with pizza? Come on.
The pizza, because I'm in with tomatoes and eggs. I'm in with cheese and eggs.
Yep.
And I'm in with bread and eggs. It's like
Totally.
that Friends episode. Meat, good. You know what I'm talking about?
I think you have your next like social media like content right now.
I mean, listen.
It needs you and Bethany to go out, get drunk,
Okay.
hungover the next morning, make pizza. But the problem is now, which pizza is it going to be? You know,
I think it's got to be cheese.
it's got to be cheese pizza.
I think it's cheese pizza.
But even like brand, like getting that granular with like what pizza are you putting in the eggs?
This is an unpopular opinion. Okay.
Here we go.
First of all, Pizza Hut is not pizza.
Thank you. Oh, I was like,
It's cheesy bread.
yeah.
If you don't put tomato sauce on your pizza, then it's just cheese bread.
That's right.
And especially when you don't even put a lot of cheese on there. It's just like bread with some cheese and zero sauce.
Yes.
Get the fuck out of here with that.
And when you have it again as an adult, you're like, hold on a second. Did they change the recipe, or as a child, did I think this shit was good?
As a child, here's the thing. We didn't grow up with very much money. So as a child, anytime food was bought, that's fancy shit.
Right.
And how old are you? I'm not going to ask you that.
No, it's fine. I'm 36. I just turned 36. You know about Cece's Pizza in Texas? Like, that was like
Mr. Gatti's, where you would go in and watch cartoons.
And after games, or like, whatever, you think you are like, this is VIP premium. Like, you are eating with royalty.
I'm gonna tell you something. The first time I was ever in Houston, okay, I went to college in San Antonio. I had a friend of mine who grew up around Houston. Mm-hmm. And this is a while ago. And I had never been out in Houston. And we went into a club.
Do you know the name of it?
I would have to. It was so long ago.
Okay.
When I say so long, I'm older.
Okay.
So, but this was a time when ecstasy was...
Yeah, I'm with you.
They had a bowl. You would walk in, pay your cover, and just grab ecstasy out of a bowl. And because it wasn't like taboo, nobody was hoarding it, because you knew you could come. You didn't have to grab 35 hits.
Are you sure it wasn't Green Door?
It could have been. Is that a weirder kind of place?
It's like a swinger's place.
Well, I would tell you. So we went in on Halloween, and we walked down this hallway, and people would come out of like this plastic, so you would see their face. It would go raw and come back.
We're talking about Green Door.
It could be. It was a bananas joint. I love places like that. But Houston. So the last place I ever threw up in a roller coaster. No,
Or is it the Zipper? Were you like at a carnival?
Where was I?
The Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, the Zipper.
It might have been.
Nobody ever wanted to go on that ride with me because you would,
I can't
puke.
I can't do them.
I mean, I love it, but
I can't do them. No. I went with my girlfriend at the time, and she was like, "You want to get on this?" And I said no, and then she said,
"Pussy,
are you scared?" Which was her way of saying pussy. Thank you so much. Checking in with that. She did 100% call me a pussy, but in a very polite Texan way.
Yes.
She said, "Are you scared?" And then she said something. She was like, "I can hold your hand if you want to," which was a real...
my God.
That was a fuck you, right?
Yeah, totally. Kinda. It's like a bless your heart.
Yeah. Oh, bless your heart. That'll fuck you up. So, yeah, I threw up. And she laughed. And I'm so glad there weren't cell phones back then.
Then you had to blame it on the beer. You can't, like, that's the good news. Just chug a beer and be like, oh yeah, I just got to get the courage. And then if you puke, then you're like, no, it was a beer.
I was so far ahead of you. You know what I did the night before? We went out and I got shit-faced on purpose. Shit-faced. So when I woke up, I'm like, I'm just so nauseous. I don't know how I'm going to do today. Huh?
Uh-huh. Yeah. That way you're just setting the scene. Got to set the scene.
I was hoping, I hope before I jazz hand with fear that I'll throw up. And I did.
As a female, I appreciate the thought process of that. At least you're not going in and just like puking and then being like, well, I just have a weak stomach because I'm just a weak puss.
Yeah, that's right. It was different. Can I tell you? So, this girlfriend in Texas taught me so much. First of all, I didn't know what okra was.
Oh my God, fried okra. I have not
never had
fried
okra before.
That was like a staple at our dinner table. And honestly, I haven't made it in forever. I guess you're right. I've never seen it.
It's so
at
slimy.
The grocery store.
I didn't know how slimy it was going to be.
Yeah.
I didn't like that at all. It was like
grease when you fry it just soaks it right up.
That okra is yucky. It's like somebody took your okra and went like this. Here you go. It's like a gooey just...
You're not wrong, but like you don't...
it is not
you just pop them in your mouth. You don't like actually like cut them and see the texture.
But you gotta...
Did this whole conversation start from food?
I'm not sure.
Like the conversation's leading itself, basically. And we're finding out like where you're from,
So one thing definitely about me is that the conversations will go wee.
But you can tell that you're a natural on the mic because you have your own podcast.
Yeah, and I've been talking for a long time.
You have.
To myself when I was a kid, a lot of talking to myself.
Speaking of that, because everyone kind of has this internal like dialogue,
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that you were funny when you were like little? Were you like, I am meant to be a comedian, or did people tell you were funny? Like, how did that start?
I think you brothers and sisters?
I do. I have 2 brothers,
Are they older or younger?
older and younger. I'm the middle child.
Okay. So can I ask you, is your younger brother the funniest out of the 3 of you?
No, my older brother.
That's interesting.
Because, well, here's the other thing. I've heard that comedians, it's either like you're a super naturally joyful person or you've been through some shit, some trauma.
Right. That's right.
So which one are you?
A little both, probably, I would assume.
Okay.
I grew up with the youngest of 4 boys, and so fighting back was never like something that was going to work. So you find that a lot of younger siblings, in order to get attention and to kind of, hey, na-na-na-na-na-na, they become funny. And so I think, look, I don't remember. I think in high school, senior year, I think that I was class clown. And like, I first time I ever got on stage, I was 15. I had my parents drive me to the show.
That is young.
I had watched it on TV and I was like, I'd like to try that. And my dad said, I think it'd be great for you. And
Was it like a bar?
it was a place called the Iron Horse in Northampton, Massachusetts.
Okay.
And the first joke I ever told was, hey, everybody, my mom wasn't dad in the front row. Said, hey, everybody, I'm 15. My name's Josh. I had a mullet. I was wearing acid wash jeans with they were tucked into my high top pony sneakers. Oh, might have been wearing a white mesh shirt. What's up?
Oh my God. Just in case anyone wants to cast a young Josh Wolf for a TV series.
Yep.
There it is. There's the costume.
Yep. I was wearing a thick silver chain, but like not like rope, more like King Tut. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Of course.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And the first joke I told was, hey, everybody, I'm Josh. I'm 15 years old. I'm super nervous to be here. My parents are here. This is the first fucking time I will be the fucking swear in front of my fucking mom. And when I heard that laugh, I was like, oh, this is what I like.
Yeah. It like ignited the fire. And
This
you
is
were like,
what I like, yeah.
And did your siblings go to that? Or like,
No.
So you do it. How many people were there?
The Iron Horse probably had 75, 70 people. It was an open mic, but it was like a real popular open mic. And stand-up was still kind of new, and so people were coming, even open mics.
Did people laugh the entire time? Like, because there has to be a point where if you got into it, this is like how every comic has a point where they've been like booed off stage, or like you just have this moment that's been seared into your memory about like something that you're just like, well, that joke did not land.
Well, I've had plenty of those experiences.
Tell us a few.
Well, okay. The 4th or 5th time I was ever on stage, a week before, I had done this comedy competition in San Antonio at a bar called Huey's on St. Mary's Street. It's not there anymore. But I had won a comedy competition because I had brought my friends, and it was audience decides.
Yeah. And
the winner got free drinks all night. And I was in college at the time. And free drinks, that sounds awesome.
Yes.
And my friends were like, free drinks to you also means free drinks for us.
Right.
Because
so they're coming to support you. I like how you're thinking ahead about this stuff, both the puke on the Ferris wheel and also the comedy show with your friends. I love it.
We are talking about free beer.
Yeah.
And at whatever, what was I at the time? 20? At 20, free beer is like...
Yeah, you're set.
Yeah.
You're the cool kid. You're probably going to take all that beer and go into a party, whatever, stay there the whole night, shut the place down.
If free beer is only right below open buffet at 20. Do you know? Maybe right above it.
Or Taco Cabana.
Or Taco Cabana. Yeah. So I win. I get a phone call maybe 5 or 6 days later, and it's, hey, my name is Bill Kinnison. It was Sam Kinnison, who's a comic, at the time, one of the biggest comedians in the world. He's one of the first people he was the first rock and roll comic. He started playing rock clubs. He did some rock covers at the end of his show. He brought a band with him. He was the first guy I remember watching going, are we allowed to say this shit? Like,
he's groundbreaking, trendsetter, all the things.
He hit on religion in a way because he came from his family were traveling pastors. And they travel around the country, and like vans and buses and shit. And so he knew a lot about it. He had some definite thoughts on it. I'm not going to repeat any of his jokes. Maybe one. He used to tell this joke about, he was like, those ads with the kids in the desert, hungry. He's like, hey, everybody, we got deserts in America too. We just don't live in them. Move to where the food is, right? And now he also screamed and did a different, but his brother, who was his manager, was like, hey, their opener, a guy named Carl LeBeau, his dad had passed on the way to San Antonio. And he was like, we heard that you won the comedy competition. You want to open for Sam? And I was like, yeah. And when I hung up, I'm like, this comedy shit is easy, And it was at a rock club called Sneakers in San Antonio. And I'd never done, listen, first of all, I didn't have a whole lot of money. I wasn't, as far as my style, I was like a lot of college kids, especially at the time, dudes. There was no fashion really for young dudes so much.
It's like come as you are.
Yeah. And my closet was like 3 shirts, 2 t-shirts. I had 2 pairs of shoes, right? So I want to tell you what I showed up. Now, this guy is a rock and roll comic. First of his ever, really. We're at a rock club. Nobody plays rock clubs. These are rock and roll fans who are coming to see him. And I was like, well, I'm going to be rock and roll. As rock, But I had my acid wash jeans again. I had loafers. It was between loafers and workout shoes. Those were the only 2 pairs of shoes I had. So loafers. I decided on socks, even though looking back...
Not a strong choice.
Nah. Okay, so loafers, like I was going for a job interview. White socks, acid wash jeans. I had a blue button-down Blockbuster type shirt.
Okay.
Tucked into those jeans, and I had one of those black belts that had the silver tip. You remember those?
Oh my God.
You grew up in Houston. You saw your fucking fair share of those.
Yeah.
I had a black motorcycle jacket on over that.
Jesus.
Ponytail. Wait.
Oh my God.
Bangs.
What?
So
What? Like, are we talking like straight across?
A little flip down.
It was like a little like this.
Yeah.
The swoop.
Yeah, a little swoopy.
All right.
It wasn't like, Wednesday Addams across the right. But
okay,
it was swoopy.
Wow.
It's, by the way, swoop better than straight across, but not a lot.
Yeah, totally.
Right?
No, you said it. Thank you.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God.
There's that is like 4 different outfits.
Yeah, it is.
And the hair doesn't belong anywhere.
Right.
That with any outfit.
Right.
Okay. So I've been on stage 5 times. And I think I'm just saying hello, and so they say, hey, listen, first show, I didn't know there was 2. First show, let's just do 20. And I was like, minutes? And he was like, yeah, just do 20 minutes and then we'll bring Sam on.
What were your usual sets?
Well, I'd only been on stage 4 times. There's no usual set. I had done, the maximum I had ever done is 3 minutes. Oh my God. In front of friendly people.
Were you like shitting yourself?
Fucking hell. But I wasn't, only because I was like, oh, I'm a natural. I'm crushing every
So you were like cocky. You said when he called you, you were thinking to yourself, this comedy shit's easy. I fucking killed it.
Easy.
This is like one of my idols. No problem. I already got it after 5 shows.
Easy.
Okay.
I was a little concerned at the 20 minutes being basically 7 times more than I had ever done.
Right. Did you even have 20 minutes of material? No. You're like trying to do the math in your head, like how long each joke's going to take. Just tell it like in slow-mo.
So here's they introed me, and I walked as slowly as I could out to the mic. I'm trying to burn a little time. I'm trying to burn a little time,
Just start moonwalking.
Yeah, sure. So I get on my way out to the mic with my ponytail and my bangs. You have to remember now, this is a rock and roll. This is like if I walked out in front of a group of people who were in town to see Iron Maiden. Right. And I walked out like that. Okay. And they're not there to see me. They're there to see Iron Maiden.
Right.
And this dude screams out, I'm halfway to the mic, you better be funny, Bobby Brady. Because I looked so young. Oh, God. And they all started to laugh. And then before I got to the mic, they just started heckling me. Now, I'm not prepared for hecklers at that time. I'm barely prepared to be on stage in front of other people. These are like legit grown human people. Can I tell you how bad it went? 4 minutes in, they had stopped heckling me and they were just talking to each other.
Oh, God. Like not even facing the stage.
No. So as people were walking in, I only had 3 minutes. I was like, hey, you guys missed my set. Let me do it again for you. I did my set 5 times. I repeated the same jokes 5 times because I needed to fill the time, and I couldn't talk to people because they were done talking to me. They weren't even when I was, hey, you dude, and the whatever. He was not paying attention.
Oh my God.
It was so bad. And I walk off stage, and my girlfriend at the time was like, yikesies. Oh, but
There.
Second show went worse because his manager was like, hey, Sam's needs a little extra time. Oh. Can you plan on doing 5 more? And if I need you to do more, look over to the side and I'll be doing this.
So there was like 2 show times.
2 shows.
So you'd already been committed. Now you had like the horrible experience of like people fucking heckling you and all this stuff. And now you have to do it again.
And I know what's coming. And he wants me to do 5 minutes more at least. So at one point during the second show, and the same shit happened. At one point in the second show, my girlfriend was in the audience, and I just started talking to her. I'm like, what do you think I should do? She was like, just keep going.
Oh, my God.
And I would talk to her. I was like, I would say something like, do you think that joke would have been funny if they were listening? And she was like, probably not that one. Like,
That's kind of cute, actually.
It was amazing. On the ride home, she said to me, I remember saying, hey, at least you get this out of your system and you know what comedy was like, meaning time for you to quit.
Oh, no.
And I told her, I said, hey, I may not do this for a living, but that's not the last time. I'm not going out with egg on my face.
Yeah.
I'm going out, even if I have to do another comedy competition and pack the bar, but I'm going out winning. Yeah. I'm not going out like this, limping out of the bar.
That's not time for you to shut it down. That's that's going to build your character and you're going to come back swinging.
That was the idea. That was the idea. I will tell you, I went from, I remember being in LA when I first started. I was living in an apartment with my cousin. My cousin in the 90s, huge television star. He was on a show called Party of Five. Mm-hmm. And so I was living with this dude who was just maybe the prettiest person.
Just like crushing life. Uh-huh.
Ugh. Hey, Scott Wolf. I mean, are you still that why are you still so handsome, dude? But I remember doing stand-up. I just didn't get it. I didn't have enough life experience to understand that that's what stand-up is. Stand-up isn't just telling jokes. It's who are you?
Right.
What's your idea? What are your ideas? What's your point of view? Even if that comes through your jokes. Like there's a guy right now named Mark Normand who does old school style stand-up. He does set up punchline. Hey, joke. But you know a lot about him from his jokes. And that was the difference. You don't learn that till later, that if you think about your favorite stand-ups, you do know something about that person because they're sharing who they are, whether it's on social media or on stage, but they definitely are sharing part of who they are.
Yeah, it's like their life experience. That's where their jokes are coming from, right?
Even if they're just telling jokes, like Mark, his life experience is in the jokes. It's in his point of view on whatever he's talking about,
So if something is happening to you in your life, does it happen and you're like, this is funny? Or are you like, this is material? Like do you like go and like write it down really quick? Or do you like flesh it out? Like what does that process look like?
I don't know how other people do it.
Yeah.
And I generally tell stories. So if something happens, it doesn't have to be I used to think the story has to be funny for me to tell it on stage. And as I got older, I was like, just tell the story. It's your job to make it funny.
Huh. Yeah.
Is it an interesting story? Is it a story that people will relate to? Cool. Tell the story and then make it funny.
So like somebody could be telling the exact same story and like nobody would be laughing, but because it's you and you're able to like see humor in things. That's your comedic style.
I jumped off of, and jumped isn't right. I tell the story about, I'm scared of heights. I tell the story about going up on one of these needles in New Zealand, in Auckland, and trying to jump. And then I couldn't do it.
Why would you do that?
They had to push me.
Oh,
But
oh my God.
inherently, the story is not funny because I climbed. It's supposed to take the whole trip up that it's supposed to take 7 minutes. I was there for 37 minutes. And then they had to push me. They were like, come on, we got people waiting.
Oh my God.
But it's my recollection of where I was mentally.
Right.
That's the kind of stuff, like the story itself, because I'll tell a story straight ahead, exactly how it happened the first time. And that is a good judge for me. Is this a funny story, or is it an interesting story that I'm going to have to make funny, right? Punchlines and all that stuff.
And that's the premise of your show now at Jimmy Kimmel's Comedy Club, right? It's called Story Time.
Yeah.
And it's your new residency. What is that like for you to have a residency on the Las Vegas Strip?
That's the coolest.
It is so cool.
Are you kidding? It's so cool. And the people at Kimmel's are so good to us. So good. And the venue's amazing. And what I like about it is I get to practice. I get to... you get to hear things before anybody else when you come to these shows, because this is where I'm working on stuff. Or if I'm like, hey, this is about to go in the special, I need to do it like 15 times. So I'll bang it out at Kimmel's too.
Do you still get nervous when you get on stage?
No.
When did that switch for you? Like, were you just always confident every time you get on stage? I mean, especially after going through things like where people are talking to each other instead of watching you. At shows like that has to put a ding on your confidence. So like, you know, I feel like a lot of people struggle with confidence. That's something that comics can't really afford to do. So do you have any like tips for how to be confident?
Wait, tips to be confident?
Yeah.
I mean, just pretend you're confident.
Yeah, you fake it till you make it.
Here's the truth. You talking about being confident on stage or off stage?
Let's do both, because there's like stage fright, which is like a real thing.
Yeah.
Someone could have like material memorized, and as soon as they get on stage, it's like you're just blank stare.
For sure.
Deer in the headlights.
So my son opens for me now.
I know, which is so cool.
It's
the coolest.
Absolute coolest. I've never had more fun in my entire life. He was scared of speaking in public. The first time he was out there to open for me, I didn't even tell him. We were in Austin, and I go, hey, it was 5 minutes before the show. I go, hey. And he's like, yeah. I go, it says in the contract that you're the host for the weekend. So whatever you need to do to get ready, show starts in 5 minutes. Now, I know if I had told him a week before, he'd have shit himself. He'd have been thinking about it the whole time. He'd have been sweating, nervous, smoking weed. He didn't have time to do any of that. He was like, what? He was like, what should I do? I said, do you know any stories about me? And he said, a million. I go, go tell one. Don't care. Don't worry about if it's funny. Pick the most interesting one. They're going to like it. So it didn't give him time to be nervous. And what it showed him was he came off stage, and then the other comic went on. And I was like, how was it? And he was like, I'm fucking mad at you. I go, yeah. Cool.
But how was it?
How are you feeling? He said, it's like, I've never had more energy. And I said, are you still scared? He was like, no. And I said, why? And he said, because nothing happened.
Right.
Whenever you're scared of happening, nothing happened.
Right.
Nothing happened.
That is true. Everyone usually makes up these narratives for what's probably going to happen. You can't even plan anything. You might as well just
And so I did it to him the other night. He's so scared to sing in public. And so we shot something in Calgary where we compete, and then the loser has to do embarrassing shit.
You two compete against each other.
In whatever.
What are the stakes? Like, what do you mean?
Depends.
Okay, it's just all the time.
It depends. So we have a show on YouTube.
Constantly in competition with each other. Okay.
We have a show on YouTube called Family Tussle where we compete and have to do embarrassing things, but these are real. Like, he made me get my butthole waxed.
Oh, it's actually not as bad as people think.
I told him. I go, the mound hurt so much more than the butthole.
Yeah, exactly.
Can I tell you? Okay, this is embarrassing. So we're in the little esthetician's office, right? It's a tiny little.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of room for much happening in
No.
there. And so I'm on all fours, and the dude, and I was like,
that's it.
And I asked him, I go, hey, can I ask you a question? He said, sure. I go, and this is such a stupid dude thing. Ready? I go, so that didn't hurt that much. Can I ask you a question? He goes, yeah. I go, you think I have a tough butthole? And he was like, what? And I said, well,
in comparison to other buttholes, sir.
Yeah, he was like, what? I go, well, I had heard this was going to hurt, and it didn't. So would you consider me to have a tough butthole? And he said, first of all, I'm not allowed to answer that question. Which I was like, nah, it's great.
Like, due to HIPAA laws.
Yeah, you're right.
I cannot answer that.
But Jacob also made me get it. I have a tattoo on my back he made me get that says, Jacob is my biological father. But I did some shit to him too. Like he lost a competition and I made him sit on Ventura Boulevard in LA, everybody. One of the most busy streets probably in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
On a Saturday afternoon, beautiful day, behind a desk with a sign in front of it that said, ask me for tips about living with herpes. It was one of the best days of my life.
Did people approach him?
Yeah. One dude approached him.
What were his tips?
One dude approached him, ready? And I said to the guys across the street we were watching, like, oh, this dude's going to hit on him. He's an older dude. He's thinking, I got it, you got it. You know what I'm saying? So,
you can't split it. It was amazing. We both have it.
That's right, babe.
Oh, my God.
But that was great. But so this time we were on the road and he thinks that he's a better basketball player than me and he's a better athlete than me. But mentally, I'm so far ahead of him. Yeah. And I know that even if we do something where he's better than me, if I can get into his head a little bit, he's going to lose. So we were playing horse and basketball. I made the first shot, started talking shit. It was over.
Right.
And I told him, I said, hey, tonight at the club, at the end of the show, I'm going to have the DJ play the karaoke Wrecking Ball, and you got to sing it.
Like the Miley Cyrus song.
Yes.
It's a really hard one, actually.
Impossible. But that's the other thing. I don't want him to feel pressure like he's going to sound good. I don't want him to sing something that he feels like is in his wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Nobody thinks you can sing that song.
Yeah, if you're going to face plant properly.
Go scream it.
Yeah.
And after the show, I was like, are you still scared to do it? He's like, no. I said, good, you got to do it second show too. But like I think that's for me anyways. Like everybody parents their own whatever way. But like for me, it was the best way to do it with him.
And now it's material too for you guys to talk about.
Yeah.
So he opens for you at your show. Mm-hmm. And how long has he been doing it now?
A little more than a year.
Can you see him getting better?
Oh my God. This weekend, we were in Oklahoma City. And this weekend.
Oh, I know. You were in Oklahoma City when you almost missed your interview.
I know. Yeah,
that's another story.
Yeah, I by the way, I'm easily confused. So I saw TV station. Oh, okay.
You're like, there's two of them. One of them's going to be this day. It's fine. Anyway.
But we were in Oklahoma City, and I told them on Saturday after this late show, we did 5 shows. I was like, hey, you got better every show this weekend. It was really impressive. He tried something. He's so far ahead of the game a year or so in because he gets so much more stage time than everybody.
Right.
He's with me. He does all my shows. He does his set. I do my set. And then we do a Q&A, which the audience loves. And then I bring out the guitar. It's a great fucking show. It's a legit great show.
I can't wait to see you. I'm not going until the 17th, but I can't wait. And I've only heard great things. And I've obviously watched you guys on social media and the podcast and YouTube and all of that. And like it's hilarious. Like, are you the first person that's ever performed with their child?
Well, I was just on Pauly Shore's podcast and he was like, hey, I used to tour with my dad.
Oh, that's right.
Sammy
I went
Shore.
to his show down the street. It's right up here.
At Wise Guys.
Yeah, Wise Guys.
Yeah.
And it wasn't and he invited me. I know Pauly.
Yeah.
And it wasn't what I was expecting, but he told this tale of his life and his parents, and he grew up in that club.
He did the one-man show.
He
grew up in the Comedy Store.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that. So
yeah.
He performed with his dad.
I don't know anybody who's doing it now or has done it since. And I just, and we do a podcast together called Hey Man, and it's like the best time of my life. It's just to be able to hang out with my buddy, you know?
I saw this one episode where you said the best thing about like finally telling your kid that you smoke weed or like allowing him to smoke weed, I can't remember which one it was. You're like, is he finally like stopped stealing your weed?
That's right.
I was just fucking talking.
That's right.
I'm like, that would be accurate, you know?
I would steal his weed, and he would be like, are you stealing my weed? I'm like, just want you to know, technically, since you're living in my house, that's my weed. You're living in just one of my rooms.
You did the dad bite thing.
All the time.
That's what I told my dad. I'm like, you've scarred me. Like, the reason why I eat my food so fast is because, like, if it was around my dad, he'd be like, oh, you know, he'd wait. Because, you know, people always try to, you get the last bite, perfect bite.
Yeah.
He would wait, and then he would eat my perfect bite. He's like, that's really my hamburger. You know what I mean?
It is his hamburger.
What?
Yeah, that's tough logic.
Like, are you kidding me? So what were your parents funny? Because, like, I mean, I guess what you kind of covered with your brothers that you'd have to just to stand out. But were your parents funny? Did your dad have a sense of humor? Did your mom?
My dad's funnier now than he was then. I think he was a little. He was. You know what? When you grow up, as you get older, you look at your parents differently.
Oh, 100%.
And who they are.
Oh my God.
And how they are in the world. And, you know, my dad was not a real emotional, high energy dude. Mm-hmm. And I used to take that as, oh, this dude doesn't love us. But you know what? As I got older and I have kids, you know what he did do? He showed up to every sporting game, every sports game, every school event. He just wasn't a verbal dude, but his way of showing you that he loved you is that he was there every fucking time.
Right.
And I didn't realize that when you get older and you have kids, you're like, oh, showing up every time is fucking hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's hard. Mm-hmm. And so, like, you look at your parents differently. And my dad actually is loosened up a little bit.
I feel like most people's parents do loosen up after they, you know, fly the roost or whatever. Like, you're like, oh my God, that's who you actually are.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You're not concerned about me, like, I don't know, dying or
that's right.
Whatever.
Dying's right.
Right.
Yeah,
like, it's your
right.
child.
Yeah, dying's
like
right.
The one thing you got to do is make sure your child stays alive.
Yes.
But as an adult, you're like, that stress comes off. You're like, okay, I did it. They can manage.
Dying,
they can live on their own.
Pregnant, all that stuff.
All of those things.
Yes.
So who were your comedy like legends growing up? Who did you look up to?
I mean, this is tough to say now, but Cosby.
Oh God.
Pre-rape. I don't know there was a pre-rape. That was probably during. That was probably mid-rape. But Cosby, aside from all the terrible stuff and him being a terrible dude, so this was all before I knew that. Mm-hmm. His stand-up and to be able to sit on a stool, not swear, not raise your voice, and keep 5,000 people in a theater on the edge of their seat watching you, that's tough, man. Yeah. It's tough. You're not doing any, a friend of mine, a comic, called them dance moves. You're not doing any of the dance moves that we all know that keep people in their attention. He's on his stool, not swearing, telling stories about his kids, and didn't matter. Crushing. And him and Kinnison, and George Carlin a little bit. But Kinnison, because I was like, this dude is out of his fucking mind.
Did you ever get invited back to his show after you got heckled?
Oh, but I will say this. His brother was like, hey, make sure you do 25-second show. I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, I heard the first show. Sounded like they were having a good time. I'm like, that wasn't them having a good time, dude.
They were just talking to themselves.
They were just talking. He was like, it was loud out there. I'm like, yeah, loud. That's right. That's a good way to describe it. Loud.
And do you feel like you have incorporated any of what they did into your current one? Cosby, you know, if he talked about his family, you kind of do that in your show too.
A little bit with Cosby, just in the storytelling thing. I ended up being a storyteller and I didn't know I was going to be. So I'll go back and check him out because I'm like, how does this dude, I like to see how he uses words. It's just, comedy is like, here's the way I look at comedy, all right? So I used to get my feelings hurt if a joke didn't work. But the way I look at it, I look at comedy, I think the way all art should be looked at. It's all a puzzle, right? So if you and I were doing a puzzle, right, and you tried to put a piece in and it didn't work, you wouldn't throw the fucking piece away.
Figure out where it works. You're
like, this isn't the piece, but there is a piece that works here. Mm-hmm. That's what art is. This piece, it works somewhere else. But I need the one that fits right here. And that's what, to me, comedy is.
That makes sense. I guess I could ask the question, do you ever feel like you had this like big break moment? But most people know you or originally got to know you from the roundtable discussions on Chelsea Handler. Chelsea lately, I think I was in college and I would watch that show every single night before I'd go to sleep. And something I would always wonder as it was happening, because it was you and 3 others, or you and it changed.
Yeah, it was 3 people on the round table and then Chelsea.
Did y'all discuss the topics before? Because it seemed pretty improv-y. It almost seemed like whoever had a joke about what she was talking about would just buzz in. You know what I mean?
Both. So what would happen is you'd get I went from being a performer on the show. I ended up writing on the show for a little while.
Oh, cool.
And then I went back to just being a performer. And so the process would be at 10 a.m. you meet in the writer's room. Everybody brings in some topics, right? And that you would find on the news, TMZ. I always this is early Barstool.
Right.
So I would go on Barstool to find weird stories because I knew everybody else was covering TMZ.
That was like underground. Barstool's like underground.
Way underground.
Okay.
Way underground.
Uh-huh.
And so I would go on Barstool and we'd pitch and for a show, I think 6 topics. We very rarely got to it, but 6 topics. And then what would happen is the writers went to the room, wrote some jokes, and then as soon as we picked the topics, we would send an email to the people who were on the show that day. Mm-hmm. So as a performer, I would usually get my topics around noon. Got to be at the show by 2. So
oh my God.
You got 2 hours to do some writing. You get to the show, you have a producer. They'll come down with some jokes from the writer's room that Chelsea didn't choose.
Okay.
Right? Do you want any of these? Okay. And so you would have some ideas of what you want to talk about. You could tell the difference. If it was 3 people on the round table who were very comfortable with riffing, a lot of times none of those jokes were ever told because we would just fuck around with each other.
Yeah.
Those were the best ones.
Yeah.
Where you would go the entire first segment, she would read the topic. We would start talking about the topic. It would devolve into something else. And she'd be like, we got to go to commercial. We get to one topic.
You're right. Those were like
the best.
That's when it hit, you know?
When you could tell though, when she was on, she was the best dude for so many reasons. One, she didn't need to be funny. If you were funny, she would shut the fuck up.
Right.
But if she needed to take over and be funny, she took over and was funny.
That's right.
But she had very little ego in that way. She was just like, you won't be funny, be funny. This is why I brought you on this show.
That's really why I couldn't tell whether it was organic or not. Because like the way that you guys like would riff off of each other like you're talking about, I'm like, you can't rehearse that looking that organic. But it seemed like the jokes came from somewhere. But you are right. And I would notice that where if y'all were just going at it, she would just like sit back. She
was such a gracious host. You could tell the round tables. So when there were 3 of us on the table that knew each other, it was just going to be a shit. We were just going to shoot the shit.
Yeah.
When it was 3 people who didn't know each other, you could tell. She would read the story, tell her joke. Look, somebody would tell a joke. Somebody would tell a joke. Somebody would tell a joke. And then she'd read the other topic. And you could really go back and look, especially if none of the 3 jokes had anything to do with the jokes that came before.
Yep.
What that's telling me is that person's not listening. They're just waiting to tell. By the way, fine. Some people do it differently, but they're just waiting to tell the joke that they wrote.
And there's an art to listening for anything. Mm-hmm. It's like when I first started the podcast, it's like, you would just be constantly looking at your notes, waiting for the time to ask the question, but you just missed, going off of what somebody else was saying, which is, I'm sure, the same with comedy. Who were the 3 people you said there was 3 people that always knew each other?
Oh, no. If we did, there were so many of us who knew each other, right? There was a lot of us who had started at the same time. The people that I loved being on were people who were just ready for whatever, whenever. Chris Frangiola was amazing.
Yeah.
Sarah Colonna was amazing. I loved being on with Lonnie Love because she would.
Oh my God,
she was down for
Love.
fucking whatever.
Yeah.
Joe Coy was down for whatever, and none of those people. We all had jokes. And by the way, I mean I'm forgetting people, but you know who my favorite person to be on was?
Who?
Ross Matthews.
Oh yeah.
He and I did a podcast together, and we found out that we were so similar, obviously, but also so different. But he's like a type A alpha dude.
Definitely.
And
yeah.
So we did a podcast together. It was a whole lot of fun. But I loved being on with him because we were so opposite on face value.
But still both really quick-witted.
Yes,
I would
he's so
say.
quick.
Like y'all
He's
could
so quick.
fire him off, I think.
So funny. We talked once. This was actually on the podcast. He made fun of me. He was laughing. He said something about Carrie Bradshaw. I was like, I don't know what that is. And he was like, you don't know who Carrie Bradshaw is? I go, why would I know? I said, I don't know Carrie Bradshaw. I go, do you know who Terry Bradshaw is? And he was like, is that Carrie's uncle? I go, no, he played football for the Steelers, dude.
It just shows the juxtaposition and y'all's personalities. He's like Sex in the City. You're like, what?
Yeah. I'm like, but those shows, I think they got taken down. But that podcast was like so next level fun.
So how did it happen that you got on that round table? Like, were you writing for the show first and then they asked you to be on the round table, or like, what was that like? Or was that like a phone call when it happened? You're like, my whole life is going to change right now because I'm going to be on late night television every night.
She had the lowest rated TV show.
I didn't know that.
For a year, for at least a year, the lowest.
Wow.
For a year. But believed in her voice, right? Mm-hmm. And so
wasn't there a joke about her like fucking the producer or something anyway?
Not the producer, but the head of the network.
Okay. Yeah. But even better.
But listen, dude, for whatever reason, he made the right decision.
She flipped that around. Just speaking about women in general, she flipped jokes that were like demoralizing or not jokes, things that were demoralizing about women that guys would be like, oh, she, blew her way to the top, and flipped it on its head where she's like, fuck yeah, I'm fucking the show producer.
How do you like my TV show, motherfucker?
Exactly.
And you know what else she did? Look, I have so much respect for her. All the stuff that late night TV did to women, she did to us. We wore dresses. Anything humiliating, women were not doing. It was the dudes on the staff that were doing sexualized, humiliating things. Mm-hmm. And that was it. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was amazing.
Yeah.
Like, I thought it was she's a strong, very funny, very smart woman. And she's going to do this the way what I love the most, there was, especially those first couple of years when that show was the best, there was no. It was the inmates running the asylum because the show was ranked at the bottom. And so he was like, yeah, do whatever you want to do. And I wasn't writing those first couple of years, but that show was fucking fire. The sketches were great. She was in all of them doing fucking everything. Chewy was amazing.
R.I.P.
Yeah, it's so funny.
Man. A
little Chewy.
I know.
But yeah, she was so amazing. And to be able to be on that show, it took me a couple of years after it went off the air to realize the cultural fingerprint that was left by that show.
Yeah.
It was massive.
I think that's right. Like, when I heard that it wasn't coming back, I was like, what? This show is awesome. Like, it was like
that's her.
Literally every night. But so how did you get involved with that? How did that happen?
Well, I used to, date's not the right word, but she and I used to go out and do drugs together.
Great.
And
she had that whole show about her doing ayahuasca.
Yeah, I had to say no to doing that, but I did the weed episode of that Netflix show. But she and I used to be buddies, man, and we would go do stand up and go out and fuck about and take drugs and And so look, there was nobody clamoring to be on that show. She was a nobody. E was a nothing network. And nobody had done a late night show. So it wasn't like she could have called anybody who was a reputable comic and be like, you want to come on the show? They'd have been like, no. Steve-O was the first guest.
Right.
And it used to be comic, celebrity, and the third person on the panel was an entertainment expert. So it was always, the first panel I was on was me, Tiffany, not Tiffany Haddish, Tiffany, who's, I think we're alone now.
Right. The Tiffany.
Yeah.
Red-haired singer.
Yep. And Ken, somebody, an entertainment expert from E.
Okay.
And it eventually evolved into three comics because a couple months in, I think everyone was like, those two other people are terrible. But the comics are funny.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Because that's what the world needed more of. You know what I mean? And that's what I love about comedy is you can take like the current events and there's some like nasty shit happening, the darkest shit, and you can find a way. It's like laughter is the best medicine. You find a way to make a joke about it, you know?
I think that's what we're supposed to do. I'm not saying every comic is supposed to be edgy. That's not what I'm saying. But I do think the comics who do think that way, that's their job, is to take this subject and to make you laugh at it.
Right.
That's the fucking thing. Now, some people think this is off topic or you can't make jokes about this. Incorrect. In my mind, everything is on the table. Now, there may be a time and place. Right. But everything's on the table. And this is going to be controversial.
Can't wait.
I don't think there are any groups that are off limits. As soon as you start separating people, like this person's okay to make fun of, but this person isn't. But this person is.
It's not fair.
It's not just that it's not fair. Now we're actually separating us.
Right.
That's right. We all have shit that is wonky or to be made fun of or stereotypes. You tell me I can't make fun of a dude in a wheelchair? Well, first of all, they're not going to catch me if I make the joke. So I feel pretty good about that. You know what I mean? At least I'm out running or fast walking, whatever it is.
Put your guard down and have an hour to just, laugh at ourselves.
Not only that, like if you go to a comedy show, I had some people who were offended by my show this weekend in Oklahoma City. I'm not a really offensive dude at all.
No.
But I'd put me on the naughty side, and I swear some. And this dude was like, he walked out. He was like, "You swear too much." But I was like, "Hey, everybody, if you're offended at a comedy show at this point in time, you got Google. Don't buy the fucking ticket."
That's right.
Don't buy the ticket. But I'm not changing what I do or what I say. And I'm so like, I'm not middle of the road. I'm probably a little dirtier than some people like, but not crazy.
I feel that way when I go to any Vegas show in general, like Absinthe, super raunchy. Have you and Beth seen it?
Yeah.
Super raunchy. And
my friend is in that show.
It's the best show on the strip.
Yeah.
In terms of like a variety show. It's a little bit of everything. And you see people just get up and walk out. I'm like, what the fuck did you think was going to... Right. Like, come on. Who invests money in buying a ticket to something? And then you're just like, well...
Absinthe? Yeah, that sounds like a show I like. How do you know?
As long as I can wake up at 7 a.m. for church the next day. You know what I mean? I'm like, no.
That's not what this show is.
You're in the wrong place. Right.
My friend Casey is in Absinthe. And she comes to the show every now and then. The Jimmy Kimmel show.
What act is she in Absinthe?
She is the
rollerblader?
No, she's like she does the improv with the gajillionaire.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so she's Penny Pibbit.
Yes.
Okay, hilarious.
So funny.
Yeah.
Always been the funniest person in the room. Mm-hmm. So I was like, hey, do you want to come to my... So every now and then she comes to my shows at Kimmel's. And her and somebody else from Absinthe, one of the guys who plays the gajillionaire or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Gazillionaire.
Yeah. So I have them come on stage and I introduce them as the smartest people in the world. And that means you can ask them any question from the audience and they'll be able to answer it. Not any question like, should I bet on 7? But any question that has an answer to it. Facts. They know all of it. Mm-hmm. So I have them come on stage and they get asked the craziest questions. Hilarious. And they answer all of them. And Alex, who is the gazillionaire, his point of view of being he talks down to people.
Oh yeah, all the time. I had him on a Fox 5 interview, and they literally the producer made me sign this paper that was like, he will not cross these lines. And I'm like, I'm going to sign it, but like, I can't promise, And anyway, the first joke out of his mouth was about these, like the sparkle shoes that he wears. Yeah. With like the studs on them. He was like, yeah, I like had the impoverished children make them or whatever he said. I was like, oh my God. Like, but it's funny. Like it wasn't, I think it's funny. I'm probably the worst publicist ever. I'm like, the more like controversial you could be, the better.
Yeah. There's a lot of morning TV and morning radio that won't let comics on anymore.
The funniest part about that for me as a publicist is afterward, because the whole cast was like behind the camera, just dying laughing. It's
good TV.
And then so after they like asked him to come on and do like a whole stand-up thing about Absinthe, I was like, there you go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's good TV, man.
It is.
You want viewers? That's what you're looking for, right?
Exactly. Okay. Your ratings are going to go up. It's going to get their attention for sure.
Yeah.
I'm going to switch gears a little bit because, first of all, you just moved to Vegas a year ago.
Yep.
what do you think of Vegas?
Love it.
Yeah.
Best kept secret in the country. I tell everybody out all around the country how shitty it is here.
We don't want any more traffic on the fucking 15.
People. The traffic on the 15 getting here, I was like, what is this? But here's what I would say. When people are like, isn't it hot? Sure.
Yep.
But here's the deal. I would take the 3 months of very hot over the 3 months of very cold any day of the week. And not a Texas hot, not a Florida hot. I'm not in with the bugs and the humidity. Hit me with the desert. I want to feel like somebody is following me with a hairdryer.
Exactly.
Like,
That's exactly what happened.
That's all I want. That's it. I want to be able to roll down the window and be like, that doesn't make it any better. It actually makes it a little hotter.
It doesn't make it any better. Like, we don't need to circulate this air.
No. But I love it. I love the people. I love where we live. I love the Strip. I love how much there is to do here. I love that I can discover something new to do every day. I like weird shit. I can do some weird shit here. I see a lot of weird shit here.
Yeah.
You know what my favorite thing about the weird shit here is? The weird shit here, the reason it's different than anywhere else in the country is it's 20 feet away from the grandest of the grand.
Right.
Like the weirdest thing you're ever going to see is standing next to Beyonce. And you're like, what the fuck?
Yes, you're about to have a 5-star meal at like a Michelin-starred restaurant, and there's like a half-naked person riding a unicycle.
Yes. Can I tell you?
Across the crosswalk.
On the same day, within 5 minutes of each other, this is true, I saw Beyonce. And then I walked outside and I saw a dude taking a shit with a parrot on his shoulder. And I was like, this is the best city in the world. This is the best city in the world. This dude didn't want to leave his parrot in his home, or just fucking crazy.
When you gotta go, you gotta go.
Yes, I was so.
He's like, close your eyes.
To the. I don't want you to see me like this.
I'll give you a cracker after this.
It didn't dawn on me. He probably was one of those dudes who has people pay to take pictures with his parrot.
And he just needed to also shit.
Sam.
It literally, this is the littlest big town.
Yes.
And I feel like everyone cheers for each other. We have this sense of community that, I mean, I have not lived in LA, but I've heard from many people who have moved here from LA that you can't find in LA. I mean, Texas is a little bit different. I feel like it's kind of that same small town feel. But yeah, I'm glad. Welcome. We're very glad to have you here.
I'm so happy to be here. Beth is my wife. Beth and I, we lived in LA for a long time. We moved to Nashville for a year. We could not stand the bugs or the humidity. And as soon as somebody said it's tornado season, I was like, season? You mean like spring, fall, tornado? And they were like, it's not that long of a season. I'm like, that's a I'm out.
It's enough for me.
O-U-T out. I love it when I would say that in Nashville and they're like, yeah, but you lived in LA, it's good earthquakes. I'm like, yeah, but I don't live where the earthquakes are.
Right.
I don't live where the fires are.
No natural disasters for me. Thank you. Like all the floods that are happening right now in Texas. I'm like, I don't miss that shit. My car was flooded twice when I lived there. So talking about Beth, because you're also a New York Times bestselling author. What's the book called?
It's called It Takes Balls. Tales from an Unprepared Single Dad.
So that is what threw me off was the single dad part, because you and Beth just celebrated your 20th wedding anniversary.
Yes, we did.
So how long were you single as a dad, or is that just like a book title that?
No. So when I met Beth, I had 3 kids.
That's right.
So I
Okay, so yeah, what was that like?
It was interesting. You listen. So I met a woman. She had 2 kids. We had a kid together, and when we broke up, I just kept all the kids. And
damn,
it was. You know what it was? I would like to say, I can't say anything bad about it for so many reasons. The number one reason is that whatever happened to me in my past led me to right here.
Yep.
And that time with my kids, with 0 money and having to raise them and be creative with them as far as having fun and not having them know that we were poor and all that stuff was a very it made me a better person.
Right. What kind of stuff did you do with the kids with no money?
Okay. So we couldn't afford like roller coasters, but the kids loved that shit. So I would take them to an empty parking lot at night, and I would put them in the trunk of the car, and I would just drive around real fast.
Shut the fuck up.
It's one of their favorite memories. Yeah. I would drive around and I would pump the brakes, and you would hear from the trunk. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, they had a great time, man. We would go to, those self-serve car washes.
Yep.
And we would just shoot each other with the guns.
Yeah.
Or I would make them wear helmets, and they would run back and forth, and I would try to duck hunt them.
Hilarious.
Yeah,
Duck
because
Hunt was a great game.
one of those high-powered hoses, when it hits a 4-year-old's legs, it sweeps them out from under them. So they had to wear helmets, safety first, But we I just tried to make it fun. And I think a lot of it was, honestly, if I hadn't preoccupied myself with stuff like that, I think I'd have realized how sad I was, and where I actually was. And I was still trying to pursue my dream as a comic. And how was I going to go out at night and work and perform with 3 young kids? How was I going to go on the road? How was this going to work? This, my dream, what I had always primed myself to do. And I'm finally here. I'm in Los Angeles. And now what? And now is this over? Mm-hmm. And I remember my dad, and I was still going for it. And this was soon after I had, my ex and I had split. And he walked into the apartment and he said, hey, first of all, your mom and I have always supported your dreams, but you now have 3 young kids. And at what point does it become selfish? At what point do you have to get a job? He was like, I'm looking how you're living. That's what he said to me. He goes, you're like this close to being Puerto Rican.
Shit.
He was like, you have a decision to make for your kids. He said, I don't necessarily think struggle is bad for kids.
Right.
But they're going to struggle because of what your dream
decision is.
Yes.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And he said, just make sure you have all that, ready.
And so what'd you do?
I decided that it was as important for the kids to see me not quit. And if struggle came along with that, it came along with it. We wouldn't have been the first people not to have money, and lived and not had money and still been happy, and not had money and still provide them with everything that they need. Like, I think it's a misnomer that you need money for your kids or you need to buy them shit for them to be happy. If you get them a giant empty refrigerator box and 2 balloons, you don't got to fucking talk to them for the rest of the day.
First of all, that's very powerful what you said. And that reminds me of the other day, I was talking about how I went over to one of my girlfriend's houses and I thought I wanted boys if I ever have kids. And I was like, this is insane. Like, these 2 boys were just like terrorizing everyone. And I was like, I just wanted to like do something to entertain them, because they live in this giant house. And I'm like, started thinking about what my dad used to do when we didn't have money. And we would get in our sleeping bags and we would race down the stairs. We would time each other to see who could get down the stairs fastest in a sleeping bag.
That's all you need to do.
We had a great time.
Yeah, that actually sounds like a good fun. That actually sounds like a lot of fun.
Like, fuck a slip and slide if you were done like a sleeping bag and stairs.
And you probably remember that more than what you got for Christmas when you were 9.
100%.
Okay.
That's right.
This is the point. And this is what I learned from not having money, is that you can't buy memories. Well, you can buy memories, but what you want to do is, if it's between buying a thing and having an experience, choose the experience.
That's right.
Because the experience is what you take with you. The experience is that story you just told me.
Right.
That you tell other people. That's what you pass down. You share your life through experiences with. You don't say, like, when I was 9, I don't even know, but I don't remember any gift I got, but I remember experiences that I had with my family.
That's right.
And so that to me was a huge lesson that I wouldn't have learned with money.
And so how did you and Beth meet each other?
We both had the same manager.
Because your wife is very accomplished.
Yeah, she's a writer, director, maybe the most... I mean, I know this is crazy, but as far as art and like opinions, and if I ever have a question about anything, how something looks, sounds, what do you think about this script? I don't look anywhere else besides her.
Nice. I love that.
She's like, her eye is second to none.
Nice.
Really second to none. And she wrote and directed a movie called Forever My Girl, and she just sold another movie to Netflix that she's writing right now. And so she's very accomplished. And we met, our manager set us up. It's the only thing that he ever sent me on another that I booked. Like I told him that. I'm like, you don't get a commission on this one, but this is the only thing that you've done well. So congratulations.
So blind date.
Blind date. I stood her up the first night.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I can tell you why.
I'd love to hear it.
He had sent over a movie that she had written, produced, directed, and starred in. And she's a smoke show.
Yeah, she is.
Smoke show. And so she was just a younger smoke show.
I saw y'all's wedding photos. I was like, she's still a smoke show.
Dude, she's a straight up smoke show. And I sent over the film and I was like, I knew she had,
Oh no.
I'm like, she's so good looking. She's obviously very accomplished, but in my experience, women who had looked like that in LA, I was single, raising 3 kids. That was not who I was going to match with. It might have been fun, but I was like, I just got out of this relationship. I'm just starting to be happy again. I'm not putting myself through that shit. Like she looked like a fucking ton of problems. That's how good looking I thought she was. I was like, she is a fucking ton of problems.
Is that the guy's vantage point? Because I just had something similar happen to me. And I'm like, is this guy serious? Like he flat out said to me, like, I'm just not like where I need to be to date somebody like you. The whole thing. I'm like, what are you talking about? Anyway, this is so interesting to me. Please continue.
If I look at you and I'm like, she's gorgeous, this is going to be a problem. She's because I would say I had just had not great experiences as far as relationship wise with these gorgeous people.
Right.
I was having fun, and if I didn't have the 3 kids, I'd have been like, send her the fuck over.
It's like the crazy scale.
That's right.
The hot crazy scale. You're like, no. This girl's way too hot to not be batshit crazy.
Exactly.
Okay.
And
all right. Okay.
way too hot to understand that I have 3 kids and a career. She's 5th on the list.
Right. That's tough.
She's 5th on the list. How many times has she been 5th on the list?
Well, if you have all your own stuff going on like she does.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah, that was the original thought process.
She still had things going on. But then maybe I'm 2nd on the list.
Right.
She's 5.
Yep.
All 3 kids, career. I still got to take care of them through that, right? That's not an easy thing to jump into.
Right.
Especially when you got to remember, like, there was no courting. We never dated without kids. The first time we were without kids is when my youngest son went to college. And I said to her, I go, we're going to find out if we like each other. It's always been about the kids. And so I stood her up.
Oh, brutal.
And she called the next day mad. She was like, basically, listen, motherfucker.
Love it.
Oh, yeah. Which I did too. I was like, you know what?
She's got enough spice.
Yeah, I was like, you know what? You won't come over. Well, what happened? I go, let's go out. I apologize. And my babysitter canceled.
Oh.
And I call her. I go, listen. My babysitter canceled. And she goes, you're not doing this shit again. And this is what she said. This is the first time I'd ever heard a woman say this. She goes, I'm coming over. I go, what? She goes, look, I've already got my makeup on and I'm dressed. So I'm going out.
Yep, that's right. It doesn't matter where it is, but I'm going out.
She was like, I took all the time to get ready. I'm leaving the house. I'm coming over there. So get your shit together.
Yes, ma'am. I love this.
And so she came over, man. But I think she would tell you the same thing I would tell you. Like that we both knew that night.
You did.
Yeah, I think after the 4th date, I called my mom and I was like, I'm going to marry her.
I want everyone. I was just talking to somebody else about this last night. It was a guy that he's been married to his wife. They're having their first child. One of our clients. They've been together for 12 years. And he said the same thing. He said, the first time I ever saw her, I told my friend I'm going to marry her. And it's like, I just see people settling. And not that like you can't grow to really have strong feelings for somebody, but I just think you know, that is like the dream for most people, that you get the chance, the opportunity in a lifetime to be in the same place with somebody where you all just understand each other. You click. You're like, this is it. Same page.
It's exact. And at the same time, like, you know, people reach out on Instagram, like, we're couple goals, relationship goals. And I'm like, hey guys, I wish you wouldn't put that shit on us, because I'm gonna tell you something. We have ebbs and flows like every relationship. Every relationship goes through ebbs and flows. Every marriage, at some point you hit a point where you're like, this is not happening. But the key is getting back to flow state.
Right.
Because you do. Because I remember why I married you. I remember, this is how we are together. Sometimes life is life.
Yeah.
And there's going to be times where you because the person you love can make you angrier than anybody in the world. Dude, a stranger, it's very hard for a stranger to make me angry.
Right.
I don't know you. I don't give a fuck what you think. My wife, my kids, my family, you can make me angrier. Right?
That makes sense.
And so there's an ebb and flow. I think there's so much divorce now because people
they jump ship as soon as that happens. They're like, oh, we're off kilter. We might as well just wrap it up.
Right? I'm sure you know if you have friends who have been, as soon as something goes bad, they're like, fuck it, I'm out.
Right.
They pull the plug before anybody can hurt me. I'm getting out of this shit.
Yep.
Right? And so, but we never did that. And we've been through whatever together. And
you just celebrated your 20th wedding anniversary.
Yeah.
So tell everyone who's listening the story about what you all do to celebrate your wedding anniversaries, because it's really cute.
Well, a lot of times we just get remarried.
Right. That's my point.
Yeah.
But you make a big deal out of it.
Yeah.
Like, she had this cute Monique Lullier pink dress on, and like y'all got all
what
snazzy.
you just said. Yeah. What was that word? Monique Lele?
Lullier.
Okay.
Beautiful dress. You had the tux on, like it was a very Vegas. Y'all were in the Cadillac, and it just shows you, and you're able to look back through all these pictures throughout the years, and you're like, wow. Like, and you know what I've always thought of? This is funny, but this should really happen. You should, when people get married, it should be a 5-year contract.
I like that.
And
you stick in it.
Right. And you should reevaluate. There should be a list of things that you reevaluate every 5 years, where you're like, if you ain't doing this, I'm out. You know what I mean?
This is interesting. I will say this. I think
it's a contract. You might as well make it a contract.
The checking back in. See, I think the reason a lot of marriages end is this. Okay. You're two people living together. But no matter how much you live together, you have time apart. And so you're growing together, but you're also growing as people.
Right, as individuals.
And sometimes what happens is people don't check in with each other about things that are changing in them. And so 10 years comes and you're like, you're not the fucking person I married. You're not the fucking person I married. But you gradually, slowly, the branches on the tree went like this without anybody checking in going, hey, you know what? I'm kind of feeling like this right now. I'm not the same person I was 20 years ago.
Right. Nobody should be. That means that you didn't grow.
At all.
Yeah.
But in order to stay together, you're not going to grow in those exact same ways. She and I spend so much time apart because of my job. There's no way we grow the same way. But we check in with each other.
Yeah.
And that's the really important thing.
Yeah. Well, I think that y'all's marriage is beautiful from what I've seen so far.
Thank you.
And I'm excited that you're here in Vegas.
We are too.
I'm excited to see the show. I know everybody else is. I think it's amazing what you're doing, performing with your son, Jacob.
Thank you.
And I appreciate you taking the time and coming on the show. This is a very, I'm like, look and see. Yeah, an hour and 16. Let's
go.
We could have just kept going.
Fuck
you
yeah.
got a show to go to.
Oh, yeah, I do. That's right. I think I have to do another interview.
You do.
Okay.
You have to do a Fox 5 interview after this.
Yes.
So thank you for coming on. We'll let you get to the show. Awesome time.
Bye.
Bye.